In the last 500 years, Africa has had the problem of the slave trade, has had the problem of colonialism, has had the problem of neo-colonialism, of marginalization, of underdevelopment, of dictatorships, of civil wars, of failed states, of starvation and death, of refugees. All these have been happening in the last 500 years to the Africans. By 1900, the whole of Africa had been colonized, except for Ethiopia. So we must ask ourselves, what is the problem in Africa? Why could people who are the original stock of the human beings be in all these problems? In the last 50 years, almost 60 now, I've been active on the African scene. I've been watching. There are essentially three problems which I have seen. Problem number one, misuse of identity. Misuse of identity. I am a Catholic. In Uganda, we had that problem. When we got independence, our leaders got it wrong. Even before independence, they had started. Because they didn't have what to tell the people, to go to a hospital when you are not a doctor, and then patients come. You are not able to understand the disease. So you say you have been bewitched. You tell the patient, the person who is suffering, you say you have been bewitched because you don't know what the problem is. So our leaders, in the case of Uganda, they said, we are Catholics. So the Catholics formed a Catholic party called DP, Democratic Party, but democratic for the Catholics. The other group, the Protestants, formed a party called UPC, Uganda People's Congress. One of the tribes, the Baganda, formed a party called Kabaka Yeka. Kabaka is the chief king of Buganda. So, Uganda was paralyzed. Not only paralyzed, but endangered by this misuse of identity. We are Catholics, we are Protestants, we are Baganda, we are Chodi, we are this. This I have not seen only in Uganda. Sudan here, your Sudan, was broke up by this problem. Because your people in the north, they said they were Arabs. When you look at them, you try to see how Arab they are, you don't see it. You see a black man saying he's an Arab. But I don't see your Arabism. No, I am an Arab. Okay, that's your problem. I remember we tried to negotiate, to mediate between John Garang and Al-Hajj. I was involved in that. Why do you insist on your identity at the expense of other people? Why don't you make the whole of the Sudan neutral as far as identity is concerned? I remember one time I gave them the example of a student dormitory. When you are staying in a dormitory, in some schools you have some cubicles. Cubicles are small rooms where students 2 or 3 stay. But then they have a common room where they gather. There are things they can do in their cubicle, but which they should not do in the common room here. The common room should be for the radio, for the TV. These days, at that time there was no TV, it was many radios, for the newspapers. Then your own things, brushing your teeth and all that, you do it in your cubicle. But you come here in the common room, you start brushing your teeth. We are not interested in brushing your teeth. It's not our common interest. But the issue of identity eventually broke up the Sudan. In fact, in one of the meetings, the IGAD we put it to Field Marshal Bashir. We called it DOP, Declaration of Principles. We say either you choose a Sudan which is secular, which does not talk about your religion and your tribe, talks about all Sudanese, or you allow the Southerners to go away. It was called self-determination. And Bashir chose the latter. Said, let them go. I cannot compromise on my identity. So this misuse of identity is a very big poison. But the second problem, yes, in some cases, identity can be important. Like in the case of the Sudan. Because in 1961, when I went to the secondary school, I met youth from South Sudan who were in Uganda as refugees. And I asked them, why are you running away? They said the Arabs are killing us. They don't allow us to speak our language. They don't allow us to practice our culture. I was mobilized. I was so angry. Who can stop me from speaking my language? Who can do it? You are looking for trouble to stop me to speak my language? Who are you? Are you God? So from that time, I knew that there was a problem of identity in the Sudan here. And it had to be solved. It could have been solved, but they didn't solve it. In South Africa, we had a problem of identity. Because the whites said Africans cannot vote because they don't know how to vote properly. If we give them a vote, they will misuse it. So we better stop, they should not be allowed to vote. And for almost a century, we were on that issue. At one time, they were even saying that Africans cannot go to certain bars, certain toilets. So I asked the blacks, why do you fight for the toilets for the whites? If they want to have their own toilets, why do you? What privilege is it to sit on the same toilet with a white man? How does it improve my status, my welfare? Therefore, in the case of South Sudan, in the case of Sudan here, in the case of South Africa, the issue in the case of the United States, you remember our African people there, the black people, were being discriminated in the United States. They couldn't ride in certain buses. So in some cases, the problem of identity becomes serious, and it needs to be addressed.